First, I'd like to thank everybody for joining today. Today we're going to be looking at leveraging ERDAS Imagine within GeoMedia workflows. I am Casey Adams, part of the geospatial operations team at Intergraph. And as we go through the webinar, everyone will be muted. If you do have questions as we go along, we will have people available to answer those questions through the GoToWebinar questions dialog. We'll also have time at the end for a Q&A session where we will address anything that we weren't able to get through the webinar. So the objective today is to look at the use of imagery and how it's matured from being a simple base map into a source of information for our GIS and updating that GIS. ERDAS Imagine provides the tools for the GIS user to mine the information from the imagery and easily make use of it downstream through GIS analysis in GeoMedia through our live link capability that we recently added. Previously, GeoMedia users have had some basic image analysis capabilities, but Imagine provides a complete set of market-leading, easy-to-use image processing tools. Today, satellite data, aerial imagery, and LiDAR data are readily available, and ERDAS Imagine can be used for change detection, feature extraction, classification, and much more. So what problems are we solving? The world is continually changing. The only constant in the world is change. So new roads are being made, new suburbs are being built, forests grow and are harvested, and we need fresh imagery to be able to identify that change and update our data. Keeping pace with change requires automation. With that constant change, we need to be able to automate these processes, and we need software to do that, to be able to intelligently detect change and update our GIS. Also, saving lives and property. Intelligent use of imagery can ensure homes are built in safe areas, and when disaster strikes, image analysis is key to a rapid and effective response. Over the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of natural disasters, and the speed in which we can acquire that imagery and process that imagery has gotten much faster, so it's almost a near real-time support for those first responders. So here's a quick overview of some of the things we're going to look at today. First, it starts with data access and translation tools. We recently released 11.04 of ERDAS Imagine, which added some of these tools to be able to directly access GeoMedia data through the connections and warehouses. We've also added some conversion tools to make it easier to get from shapefiles to a GeoMedia warehouse and GeoMedia warehouse to shapefiles. Then we'll look at some of the geometric correction tools inside of ERDAS Imagine. Our analysis is only as good as the accuracy of our data, so we need to be able to make sure everything is accurate before we start that analysis. So we'll look at several tools that are available. Then we'll have a quick look at the ERDAS Imagine GeoMedia live link, as well as some feature collection tools for updating your GIS and some automated feature extraction tools inside of ERDAS Imagine. And finally, we'll have a short demonstration of updating a GeoMedia warehouse using the ERDAS Imagine model maker. As I mentioned, ERDAS is a full suite of tools, and this is just servers, or any of the OGC web services can be accessed directly inside of GeoMedia. Some of these were already, we could already access in ERDAS Imagine, but we wanted to make it as easy as possible for existing GeoMedia users to work inside of ERDAS Imagine and access those same data connections that you would in GeoMedia. So now inside of Imagine, if you go to open a vector file, you'll see that a GeoMedia warehouse proxy is a new file type inside of ERDAS Imagine. When we click Connect, it brings up our connection manager, and when we add a connection, you'll see the same dialog that you would see in GeoMedia and all of the connection types that you have available. Once you make that connection, it's available in the connection manager, and when we click on it, all of the available feature tables will be available. We can select one or multiple features from that feature table and click OK. And that'll create a local proxy file, a .gwp extension, and the data can be opened and worked with directly in ERDAS Imagine. Next, if you look under the Manage Data tab inside of Imagine, you'll find the new GeoMedia conversion tools. And first is a shapefile to warehouse. So if we have users that are used to working with shapefiles and they want to try out the GeoMedia warehouse and look at some of the benefits that it has, this is a quick and easy way to take one or multiple shapefiles and add those to either a new or existing GeoMedia warehouse. So in this example, we're just showing creating a new warehouse inside of Imagine. We can click on that, click OK, and your GeoMedia warehouse is created and available. And again, we can use that same dialog that we used to connect to the GeoMedia warehouse. Our connection is already available in the connection manager. We have the X, so we can open that connection, see the available feature table, and open that data. So a quick and easy way to get data from a shapefile to a GeoMedia warehouse. You can also access all of the attributes of the GeoMedia warehouse inside of ERDAS Imagine. If users need to deliver shapefiles and you're working in GeoMedia warehouse, we also created a tool to do that. This was possible in GeoMedia previously, but we wanted to simplify kind of the workflow to be able to do this. So you could export shapefiles, but we wanted you to be able to do that inside of ERDAS Imagine in a quick and simple way, and that's what we see here. So there we go. We created the shapefile and can quickly open that shapefile inside of ERDAS Imagine. So next we'll look at some of the geometric correction tools. Like I mentioned, our analysis is only as good as the data is accurate. So we have a number of different tools for correcting your data inside of Imagine. So if we're creating orthos, that requires an elevation file. And something that we added recently was an elevation library manager where we can manage all of our terrain data and not have to go and locate a terrain file every time we're creating an ortho inside of ERDAS Imagine. If you look under the Terrain tab in Imagine, that's where you can find the elevation library. And we do supply a global DEM that's a coarse resolution if you don't have a terrain source, but then you also have the ability to add in your own terrain files. In this example, we're going and adding LiDAR files, LAS files that we're going to be using to create an ortho. So we can simply select multiple files, click OK, and those will be available to us in the ortho process. We also streamlined the workflow for creating orthos. If you have an existing model, this is a satellite example using RPC. So the software will automatically realize that you have RPC associated with that and set the geometric model. And then for the elevation source, you see we have elevation library checked off here, so we don't need to specify the elevation source. The software will go out and automatically find the best match for the area that we're working in. Simply click OK, and it's done. So a quick and easy way to create an ortho with just a couple of button clicks. We've also added a single point correction tool. Here you can see we've brought in a satellite image and I've got a tax parcel from my GeoMedia warehouse. But you can see the alignment of the data is off. So we added a quick and easy way for users to be able to just select 2 points to be able to calculate the offset and fix the calibration of the image. So here we first click on the area in the image, and then we'll click on the corresponding area in the GeoMedia warehouse. The software calculates the offset. We click Apply. It prompts us that the map calibration will be changed. We accept it. And now things are perfectly aligned. So this is just a simple way to get your data aligned with 2 button clicks. We also have a way for automated image-to-image registration with Imagine AutoSync. So here's another example. We have an aerial photograph here that's nicely aligned with our tax parcels from our GeoMedia warehouse, and then we bring in a new satellite image and you can see the obvious shift between the 2 images. So if we look under the Toolbox tab in ERDAS Imagine, there's the AutoSync workstation that we can launch in order to do an image-to-image registration to make sure all of our data is consistent across our data archives. So we simply create a new project file, We're going to select to resample that data, and then that'll open up the AutoSync workstation. The workflow is fairly simple. We simply select our input file. In this case, it's a WorldView 2 data that has been pan-sharpened. Our reference image is going to be our aerial photograph from 2009, which is actually a higher resolution than our satellite image, but that AutoSync can handle different resolutions. There's also a different number of bands between these two images. Then we have a couple of project properties that we can set up. Select the geometric model. We support all of the models that are supported within Imagine. We can set our output projection here, whether it's the same as input or output, and then set the output path for our output files. Once we've done that, we can kick off the automatic point matching. So the software will go in and automatically find points between these two images that we can use for the correction. So you can see here we've gotten 336 points have been created in a matter of seconds, which would have taken us hours, if not days, to do if we had to do this manually. You can see we have an error column as well where we can look at the error of the different points, and there's an error threshold tool that allows us to quickly highlight and delete some of those points if we want to get rid of those higher error points and get our RMSE down to something close to 1 that we have here. Once we're happy with the RMSE, we simply click the lightning bolt to kick off the process, and the software will go through. And when the process is finished, it will open up the output, overlay it on top of the aerial. We also have the swipe tools and blend tools built into the AutoSync workstation. So here we can swipe across and see that now we've got the satellite image perfectly aligned with our existing data. So from here we can move on to our analysis. So now that we've got the data in our system, we know the data is accurate, we can start to look at GeoMedia and Imagine. And this is something we showed a preview of at Hexagon 2011. It's now officially released as of the end of December and is available for download at 1104 from the ERDAS.com website. So Imagine, if you look under the Home tab, under the Link Views option, there's a new option to connect and link to GeoMedia. There's also options where we can match our Imagine view to the GeoMedia map window view. If we zoom in further with Imagine, we can also match the GeoMedia view to the Imagine view. And there's an option to synchronize these views. So as we pan around or zoom around inside of the Imagine window, the GeoMedia is going to follow. So here we're just doing a roam across the image, and you'll see they'll track across together. So now when we're working in Imagine, we can access the attributes from that warehouse either in GeoMedia or inside of Imagine. And we'll look at this in a little bit more depth in the demonstration portion at the end of the webinar. Next, let's have a look at some of the feature collection tools. We've seen the tools identifying change. We need to update that change when we do identify that change inside of ERDAS Imagine. So there's a number of different tools. One is Imagine Easy Trace, which is a semi-automated or a feature-assisted feature collection tool. And there's a number of different modes that we have. So we can collect a ribbon if we want to collect parallel lines. So here this only needs 2 mouse clicks, and the software goes in and automatically adds in 10 more vertices. So where I've had to click twice, where I would have had to click 10 times, saving me about 80% of the time that it would normally take to digitize features inside of Imagine. And it's using the imagery as the source to follow that road. It also supports collecting center lines as well as boundaries. And this is just a quick example. Again, this is 2 button clicks. And the software has automatically added in an additional, I think, 11 vertices in this case, where we have 12 points by just clicking 2 times. We also have object-based image analysis in Imagine available through the Objective module. And with Objective, this requires us to go in and collect training samples of the feature of interest, and in this case we're going to be looking at roads, and it'll quickly kind of go through the steps that Objective does in order to automatically extract features from imagery. So here we have our imagery. We've collected training samples. So the first step is to create a probability image where we see areas of white having a high probability being our feature of interest. The next step is image segmentation, where we group together pixels that have similar probabilities. And then there's a number of raster operators that allow us to filter out some of the noise by probability. Then we do a raster to vector conversion. And then there's a number of vector cleanup tools where we can, again, filter out the small pieces of the vector to clean up that file. And we'll see in the end we have roads automatically extracted from imagery. So again, imagery not as a backdrop, but as a source of information. Another new feature we added with 1104 is a delta height object queue inside of Objective. So this has given you the ability to also use terrain data inside of Objective. And the delta height object queue will look at an object and look at the surrounding area to see if there's been a change in height. So this is useful for objects that are off of the ground. So things like buildings and trees can easily be identified using this new delta height object queue and combining both optical and terrain data. Objective also supports change detection workflows where we can look at existing GIS layers and identify areas of change. So in this example, we have terrain data that we use for the segmentation. We also have optical data, and we have an existing buildings layer. So the software goes out, automatically extracts those buildings using both optical and terrain data, and then looks at the blue objects are pre-existing objects that were already there in our GIS, and the green objects are new objects that weren't there. So the ability to quickly and automatically update our GIS from imagery. And with that, I'd like to move into an impervious demo. But let's first just give you a little bit of background on what we're going to be looking at. The amount of impervious area on an individual tax parcel is used to calculate stormwater user charges or taxes. So tax assessors use this to calculate the amount of money they're going to charge each parcel owner. So impervious area refers to land that is covered by features such as concrete, blacktop, or footprints of buildings. So basically anything that cannot absorb water. So we're going to look at an example of using ERDAS Imagine Model Maker to automatically identify these impervious areas and then calculate impervious area per parcel. And then we're going to update a GeoMedia warehouse by writing that impervious value to a new attribute inside of the warehouse. And this is the area that we're going to be looking at. Here we have a 2006 aerial image with the tax parcels. So you can see a new subdivision was being started. Then we have another 2009 image where we can see the subdivision has been partially completed. If we zoom in further, we can see 2009. So these parcels have gone from full vegetation where water could be absorbed by the entire parcel to having things like driveways and buildings on it, so impervious surfaces that need to be calculated. So to be able to send someone out in the field would be expensive to be able to calculate these things. So we can use Imagine and imagery in order to calculate that. So here we've got Imagine on the right, we have GeoMedia on the left, and you can see GeoMedia is zoomed out. So again, under the link views, we have the options to connect and link to GeoMedia. So we can go and synchronize those, and you'll see GeoMedia automatically zooms into the area that we're working with inside of Imagine. We can click, access the attributes, and we see we have an impervious value for 2006. So before there was nothing on that, so it's a value of 0. It's now, we need to update that, but we want to do it automatically. And so in this example, we're going to be using a WorldView 2 pan-sharpened image. So if we look at this WorldView 2 image, you can see the software is automatically recognized that it is a WorldView 2 image with 8 bands, and we can quickly switch between quick band combinations using Imagine So in this example, we're going to be using a red edge and the red band to do a vegetation index to calculate the area of impervious per parcel. One of the nice things with the ribbon interface as well is the ability to customize this interface. So one of the things I've done is gone ahead and grabbed all of my GeoMedia tools and put those under one tab. So as I mentioned earlier, if we want to open up a GeoMedia warehouse, we can quickly and easily get to those tools by customizing the Imagine ribbon. If we click Connect, we have access to all of those. Okay, so to do this, we're going to use the spatial model, or the model maker. And we're going to use a combination of the image, the WorldView 2 image that has been pan sharpened, and we're going to use the tax parcel layer here from GeoMedia. So while this might look a little bit complicated, it's really not. The left-hand side, we're basically doing a vegetation index to calculate areas of vegetation and areas of non-vegetation. After that, we're going to do a threshold, and this is the NDVI. So as we go through the model here, I'll show you the steps on the right to show you kind of what's going on. So once we've done it, we see areas with lighter colors or higher values of vegetation. The darker areas are non-vegetation. Once we have that vegetation index, we go through NDVI threshold. So we separate the values from vegetation and non-vegetation. And we get a value of image that shows us ones for non-vegetation, zeros for vegetated areas. And then the next part is to look at the parcel data that we have here and combine that with that threshold to calculate the area of impervious surface per tax parcel. Once that's calculated, we have the area there. The final step is to output that to a GeoMedia warehouse, and then we specify the attribute that we want to update here inside of the model maker. So again, we can show the attributes inside of ERDAS Imagine or inside of GeoMedia. And if I click on this and scroll over, we can see we've created a new column here, impervious 2010. In 2006 it was 0. Now we have 3,014 square meters of impervious area that were automatically calculated and updated inside of the GeoMedia warehouse. So you can see a quick and easy way, the automated way to update your GeoMedia warehouses using imagery as the source without having to send people out in the field to do the updating for you. So that's just one example of how we can use ERDAS Imagine in conjunction with GeoMedia. And with that, I'd like to just quickly review some of the things we've touched on today. ERDAS Imagine and the GeoMedia Live Link is the only comprehensive GIS and remote sensing package from one single organization. We have the native read of GeoMedia warehouse files inside of ERDAS Imagine Viewer and the spatial modeler. The ability to write those attributes derived from a spatial model to a GeoMedia warehouse, as well as those data conversion tools to make it easier to export GeoMedia warehouse to shapefiles and import shapefiles to a GeoMedia warehouse. ERDAS Imagine is the world's most utilized remote sensing package and have more than 30 years of experience in the geospatial software industry. And we are doing a promotion, a limited time purchase offer of ERDAS Imagine and ERDAS Imagine Professional to GeoMedia license holders. So we're going to offer our customers 1 year. You have to purchase 1 year of maintenance up front at the list price, and we will be waiving the reinstatement fees for customers if they are not on software maintenance. And please contact your local sales representative for more details and pricing information on this offer. I'd also like to point you to some upcoming webinars and conferences that we have. Actually, tomorrow we're going to be having a webinar on using GeoMedia to enhance ERDAS Imagine workflows. And also coming up, Point Cloud Data Management on February 8th and the GeoMedia Smart Client on February 21st. We'll also be at several conferences coming up, the 46 Alaska Survey and Mapping, as well as the Hawaii Pacific GIS in March. and CAMA in the middle of March. Also, for additional information and upcoming webinars, you can visit our websites at intergraph.com/geospatial or www.erdas.com. And with that, I will open it up for questions. Give me a minute to go check the questions dialog, and we'll address any questions that you might have.